All right, so we're here at a client event with Kelsey Lesh with Robinson Equestrian, and we've been working with Kelsey for about 2 years now. And I wanted to kind of check in with her where she was at different parts of her journey and kind of share what she's learned and what she's implemented. So Kelsey, I'd like to kind of start with like maybe that story of like the darkest part of your riding instructor career and what that looked like.
Yeah, so I was working like way too many hours.
Right.
I had finally gotten to a point where I felt comfortable financially, but then I had an assistant instructor who came in and took half of my business. And she did it through very conniving, speaking poorly about me type of ways. And then after she left, it was really hard to keep staff or to find people who kind of did what I wanted them to do. I was still working way too much, not making any money. I was also leasing a facility, and I could see the end was coming to a close with that ability to lease that. So that was kind of the environment I was in when I met you guys.
What was that? What are the lessons learned? Because that's it's a hard situation. It's very, unfortunately, really common where you have that assistant instructor who works with you and then takes the business across the street.
Right.
So what's the lessons learned from how do you avoid that in the future? You can't really eliminate any risk, but how do you manage that risk in the future from that happening again?
So just having upfront conversations when people first come into the business of you know, what their goals are and discussing my goals as a business and making sure that our goals align. And if their goal is to one day go out on their own, discussing kind of a transition plan on how to make that happen.
Right.
And if their goal is to stay long term, then we kind of discuss their trajectory through the business so that they can see a path of improvement for themselves.
Right. So that's huge that you recognize that. Because like you have to build a future for this person, right?
Right.
As opposed to most people kind of bury their head in the sand and then, you know, that person with an upfront conversation would have told you,
right,
I want to do my own thing.
Right.
And so you say, okay, well, if that's the case, I can help you, but it's got to be, you know, 50 miles away.
Yeah, above board, you know, don't stab me in the back on the way out.
Yeah, exactly. It's amazing how often that happens and there's just no communication, right? It's just leave in the middle of the night and catch everybody off guard.
Which is exactly what happened in my situation.
Devastating.
Yep.
Absolutely devastating. So how did you rebuild yourself from losing half your business? You've got that, I mean, that hurts. That, you know, you probably feel betrayed and stabbed in the back, and somebody that you thought was going to help you build the business actually is now a competitor.
Right.
And is, hurting your reputation. So how do you pick yourself up, and what did you do, and where are you at now?
Yeah, so focusing on moving forward instead of wallowing in your own sorrow is a big part of that. But also just knowing that I built the business once, I can build it again. But I think one thing you've really helped me do is to know that I have processes in place to build the business. So it's not people just happen to show up at my doorstep. I have really good advertising in place that when I want new clients, I just hit a button and we start advertising.
Yeah, that's nice.
That's been a big thing for me because
just hitting a button and getting new clients anytime you want.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I can, if I want clients, I can get them, and if I don't, I just decrease the amount of spend that we're putting on it right now. And so that was a huge part of that. But also getting myself to step away from the business, that I don't have to do everything, which you've really helped me with that as well. And making sure that I have good trainings in place for people and better at hiring, also feeling like I'm bringing in more quality people through advertising, job postings, and kind of seeing that path forward for people.
Yeah. And you bought your own place.
I did, yes. And so we just built a brand new, huge facility.
Yeah.
Which and there was some turmoil over that transition.
For sure. That's a hard transition.
But we grew through the transition, which is huge.
Yeah.
I couldn't have done that without you and your team's help as well.
Well, thank you. But that's huge. So what I'm hearing is, okay, so you didn't wallow in the past. You you moved forward, you really put better processes in place, and then you bought your own place. So obviously people started to believe in you. You were able to attract investors, and
Yep.
and so you kind of rebuilt back to where you were.
Yes.
And then some, probably.
Yes. So I would say right now we're back to where we were of full, and now looking to hire new instructors and build and reach our more lofty growth goals.
Yeah. And I think you hit it on the head too, that ultimately, like, how you manage that risk, you manage it with upfront conversations and trying to be, make better hires potentially, but also just ultimately knowing how to build a business.
Yep.
Even if you lost it all today,
Yep.
it would hurt, but
I know that I know how to
I
get
would
new
rather
clients.
I would rather have the ability to grow a business, which I know I have.
Yep.
And no business, than the other way around.
Correct.
Then if you put me into a situation where you took away all my know-how, but you gave me a business, because obviously,
yeah,
you just lose that
that's
business.
not sustainable long term.
Right.
But the other thing is making sure that you're attracting both customers and staff that suit your goal, and being willing to let people go who are not going to help you meet those goals, whether that is staffing or a customer who is asking you to do things that are not what you want to do.
Right. You're not holding on to them so tight because you don't think you can find another team member. Or
Correct.
you don't think you can find another client.
Right.
You're willing to let them go because
one bad apple
there's a
can
lot of people
spoil
out
the
there.
whole bunch.
Yeah, definitely. So having the right people on board.
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Well, what are your goals going forward? What's the plan, and what are the goals going forward?
So the goal is to get to 120 lessons or training units a week, which we're a little over halfway there to that, and also potentially have a second location, which is something I never thought of until I started with your group, and then I was like, oh, there's actually a possibility of that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Great. Well, thank you so much for
Yep. Thank you.
insight. Yeah. Thanks, Kelsey.